On August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley was the biggest entertainer on the planet. He had sold over 1 billion records worldwide. He had packed arenas in Las Vegas for years straight. Presidents wanted to shake his hand. Richard Nixon personally gave him a badge from the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. But by 3:30 that afternoon, Elvis was pronounced dead at Baptist Memorial Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. He was 42 years old. And before his body was even cold, his father Vernon made a decision that would fuel conspiracy theories for the next 50 years. He sealed Elvis's complete autopsy report for 50 years. He locked it away so that no journalist, no investigator, and no court in America could see what those doctors actually found. The question is obvious. What was Vernon Presley so desperate to hide? To understand that, you have to go back to the morning it all fell apart. Elvis had been staying at Graceland for weeks. He had just finished his final concert at Market Square Arena in Indianapolis in June, and his health was deteriorating fast. He was bloated, exhausted, and barely recognizable from the man who had once made teenage girls faint just by moving his hips. In the first half of 1977 alone, Elvis had pushed through 60 concerts. He would take amphetamines to get himself on stage, then pile on sedatives afterward just to fall asleep. His hands and legs were swollen. His stomach was distended. Those are textbook signs of congestive heart failure, but Elvis kept going because he had to. Dozens of friends, family members, and employees depended on his income. He could not stop touring, and the people around him, the ones who could have said something, either could not get through to him or did not try hard enough. That morning, his girlfriend Ginger Alden woke up and noticed Elvis was not in bed. She walked into the bathroom and found him face down on the floor. His body was rigid. His face had already turned blue. According to Joe Esposito, a member of Elvis's inner circle, rigor mortis had set in to the point where mouth-to-mouth resuscitation was physically impossible. Elvis had likely been dead for hours before anyone found him. His personal physician, Dr. George Nikopoulos, was called but was not at Graceland that day. He was so hard to reach that he barely made it into the departing ambulance. And here is a detail that matters. The ambulance did not go to Methodist South Hospital, which was only 5 minutes away. Instead, it drove 21 minutes across Memphis to Baptist Memorial Hospital. Why? Because the staff at Baptist were known to be more discreet. Think about that. The man is dead. And the first priority is not speed, it is secrecy. At Baptist Memorial, doctors attempted to revive Elvis Presley, but it was pointless. During the resuscitation attempt, the medical team pumped the contents of Elvis Presley's stomach and simply dumped them down the sink. That single act destroyed what could have been the most critical piece of evidence. A stomach analysis would have shown exactly which drugs Elvis Presley had taken in his final hours and in what quantities. Without it, the full toxicology picture would always have a gap. He was pronounced dead at 3:30 in the afternoon. And then things started moving quickly. Dr. Eric Muirhead, the hospital's chief pathologist, led a team of 9 doctors through a 2-hour autopsy. They examined everything. But that evening, it was not Muirhead who spoke to the press. It was Dr. Jerry Francisco, the Shelby County medical examiner, who had only observed the autopsy. Francisco stood in front of cameras and told the world that Elvis Presley died of cardiac arrhythmia, a heart attack. He said drugs played no role in the death and that there was no evidence of drug abuse. That was a lie. And the other 2 doctors in the room knew it. What makes it stranger is the public medical examiner's report itself. The 2-page document that was eventually released left entire fields blank. Weight, body temperature, date, and time of examination. All empty. For a death this high profile, those omissions were not accidental. Someone wanted as little on paper as possible. Years later, both Dr. Muirhead and Dr. Noel Floredo admitted that Francisco had been pressured by the Presley family to keep the real findings quiet. The family was terrified of what it would look like if the world learned the truth. How would it look if the man Richard Nixon trusted to fight drug abuse had actually died with his bloodstream full of narcotics? When the toxicology report finally came back weeks later, it told a very different story. Elvis Presley's blood contained 14 different drugs, high levels of Dilaudid, Percodan, Demerol, codeine, morphine, Quaaludes, and Valium, among others. The combination of sedatives, stimulants, and opiates in his system was staggering. And that is when Vernon Presley made his move. On the advice of Dick Grob, Elvis's head of security, Vernon authorized the autopsy as a private family matter. Under Tennessee law at the time, if an autopsy was requested by the family rather than ordered by a medical examiner, it could be classified as a private document, and private documents could be sealed. Vernon did not just seal it for a few years. He sealed it for 50 years. The complete autopsy report was locked in a bank vault at Baptist Memorial Hospital, and no one outside the family would be allowed to read it until August 16, 2027. Now, the official explanation was that Vernon wanted to protect his son's reputation. But when you look at the full picture, it starts to feel like something bigger. The drugs in Elvis's system did not come from some back alley dealer. They came from one man, Dr. George Nicopolis, Dr. Nick, as everyone called him. Nicopolis had been treating Elvis since 1967, starting with simple saddle sores from horseback riding. By 1970, he was Elvis's full-time physician and a constant presence in his inner circle. He traveled with Elvis on tour. He sat backstage at concerts. He was part of the entourage, and that was part of the problem. Elvis was a firm believer that there was a pill for everything: a headache, a muscle cramp, trouble sleeping, pre-show anxiety. Nicopolis testified that Elvis would consume drugs from the moment he woke up until the moment he went to sleep. He reportedly traveled with 3 suitcases full of medications, not just for himself, but for his entire crew. The prescription records that later surfaced were jaw-dropping. In the first 8 months of 1977, the year Elvis died, Nicopolis prescribed over 10,000 doses of amphetamines, barbiturates, narcotics, tranquilizers, sleeping pills, laxatives, and hormones for Elvis. In the 31 months before Elvis's death, prosecutors later established that the number exceeded 19,000 doses. 10,000 of those came in 1977 alone. Nicopolis claimed he was trying to control Elvis's addiction by slipping him placebos, substituting sugar pills for the real thing. He said if he did not prescribe the drugs, Elvis would find them somewhere else. The jury at his 1981 trial believed him, and he was acquitted of criminal charges. But the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners was not as forgiving. They found him guilty of overprescribing and eventually revoked his medical license permanently in 1995. Meanwhile, the fight to actually see the sealed autopsy was heating up. In 1982, the ABC News magazine show 2020 took the case all the way to the Tennessee Supreme Court. Their argument was straightforward. Dr. Francisco used the autopsy findings to publicly declare Elvis's cause of death. If he used the report to make an official ruling, the public had a right to see it. The court disagreed. It ruled that because the autopsy had been authorized by Vernon Presley, it was a private family document. Dr. Francisco never technically had the report in his possession. It belonged to the family, and the family wanted it sealed. Case dismissed. And the conspiracy theories only grew from there. Some fans refused to believe Elvis was even dead. Sightings popped up everywhere, in grocery stores, at gas stations, even at a Burger King in Kalamazoo, Michigan. The sealed autopsy fed the theory that Elvis had faked his death and gone into hiding. Some went further, claiming he had been working as a covert FBI informant and had entered witness protection because of his supposed ties to organized crime. The famous photograph of Elvis shaking hands with President Nixon in the Oval Office only added fuel. After all, if he was really dead, why would the family need to hide the report? Others pointed to something even stranger. Just 12 days after Elvis was buried at Forest Hill Cemetery in Memphis, 3 men were arrested for trying to steal his body. Their alleged plan was to hold the corpse for a $10 million ransom. But here is the twist. 25 years later, one of those men, Ronnie Lee Adkins, confessed that the entire plot had been staged. He claimed a Shelby County deputy named Billy Talley had orchestrated the hoax on behalf of Vernon Presley. The goal was to convince local authorities to allow Elvis's body to be moved from the public cemetery to the private grounds of Graceland, where it could be properly guarded. Whether that is true or not, the result was the same. Memphis officials granted permission to relocate the coffin, and on October 2, 1977, Elvis and his mother Gladys were both moved to the meditation garden at Graceland, where they remain today. Vernon Presley died in 1979, just 2 years after his son. He never publicly explained his reasons for sealing the autopsy beyond wanting to protect Elvis's legacy. But the decision he made on the worst day of his life has now outlasted both of them. In 1994, the state of Tennessee quietly reopened the case and hired Joseph Davis, the former chief medical examiner of Miami-Dade County, to review the findings. Davis concluded that Elvis died of a heart attack, not a drug overdose. He argued that the position of the body showed Elvis collapsed suddenly rather than slipping into a sedated state. That settled the public debate for a while, but it did not settle the questions. A heart attack and a drug overdose are not mutually exclusive. 14 drugs flooding his system can absolutely trigger a fatal cardiac event, especially in a man who weighed around 350 pounds, had an enlarged heart, suffered from severe diabetes, and dealt with chronic constipation so extreme that his colon had stretched to twice its normal size. The full picture of what killed Elvis Presley's is almost certainly sitting in a vault somewhere, waiting for August 16, 2027. That is the date the 50-year seal expires. That is when the complete, unredacted autopsy report becomes public record for the first time. Will it change anything? Maybe not. After nearly 5 decades of leaks, trials, and investigations, we probably already know the broad strokes. But the details matter. The specifics that 3 doctors found during those 2 hours at Baptist Memorial Hospital, the notes that Vernon Presley was so afraid of, that he locked away for half a century. Did the autopsy name a specific drug interaction as the cause of death? Did it document organ damage that pointed to years of abuse far worse than anyone admitted publicly? Did it contain observations about Elvis's physical condition that the family considered too humiliating to let the world see? We don't know. Nobody outside that inner circle does. Elvis's daughter Lisa Marie passed away in January 2023. His granddaughter Riley Keough now controls the Presley estate and Graceland. The question of whether the family will try to block, delay, or contextualize the release remains open. Those details are still out there, waiting. And in a little over a year, the world will finally get to read them, whether the Presley estate is ready for that or not.